Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Open Book Festival 2023. My name is Kelly Smith, and I'm thrilled to be talking to 4 authors this afternoon about teamwork and the ins and outs of collaborative writing. A very warm welcome to our participants and to our audience. Please give yourselves a round of applause. Please allow me to introduce from my left, Qarnita Loxton, Gail Schimmel, Sam Beckbessinger, and Gail Halvorsen. Qarnita and Gail are the co-authors along with Amy Heinrich and Pamela Power of Chasing Marion. And Sam and Dale are the co-authors of Girls of Little Hope. I'd love to share a little bit more about each of the authors. Qarnita was born in Cape Town in 1974.
Why?
You can get me for that later. She studied law at UCT, graduating in 1997, and worked as an attorney predominantly in the financial services industry. More recently, she has trained and worked as an executive coach. Her first novel, Being Carrie, was published in 2017, followed by Being Lily in 2018, and then Being Diane, which hit shelves in 2021. She is the co-author of Chasing Marion, which, as mentioned, is written together with Amy Heinrich, Pamela Power, and Gail Schimmel. Please may I have a round of applause for Qarnita. Gail Schimmel is an admitted attorney who is currently the CEO of the Advertising Regulatory Board. She has published 7 novels, including the most recent title, Little Secrets, as well as Never Tell a Lie and The Accident. She is one half with Kate Sidley of the best-selling cozy mystery writer, Katie Gail. Please may we have a round of applause for Gail.
She was also born in 1974.
1774, according to me. Sam is the best-selling author of Manage Your Money Like a Fucking Grown-Up. Over 70,000 copies sold, FYI. Her interactive story about climate change, Survive the Century, was featured in New Scientist and Gizmodo, and she was one of the writers on Ralph and Marvel's Jessica Jones, Playing with Fire serialized novel. She teaches creative writing at Bath Spa University. She grew up on a farm near Durban, but now lives in London, and most recently has published Girls of Little Hope, together with Gail Halvorsen. May we have a round of applause for her, please. And last but not least, Gail Halvorsen co-created the Vertigo Comics horror series, Survivors Club, along with Lauren Bucas and Ryan Kelly. He collaborated with Lauren and Carlos Ezquerra for DC Comics. He's also an international award-winning book cover designer, graphic designer, and illustrator. Proudly autistic, and he lives in Cape Town. Please may we have a round of applause. So, Girls of Little Hope and Chasing Marion are 2 very different novels, which I enjoyed immensely, with the common thread being, of course, that they were written by more than one writer. So, Girls of Little Hope surprised me in a way that a book has not done in a long, long time. It's gory, albeit not from the get-go. It's been described as a love song to the 90s. And it's also a bit of a feminist novel that I could say marries the themes of adolescent friendship and horror. So that's quite an unusual combination. Chasing Marion, on the other hand, is incredibly funny and entertaining. And it's set in contemporary South Africa as well. It's about making connections and the power of taking risks. And impressively, each chapter is written from the perspective of a different character, and each character is written by a different author, right? So before I jump into the nitty-gritty of asking the authors how you all managed, how did you pull off this incredible feat? Because it is an incredible feat. Before I jump into asking you about that, I'd love you to tell us more about the actual books themselves. So if I may, I'm going to start with Sam and Dale. Could you tell us a bit more about the themes of your book, either one of you?
Sure. So I think really Girls of Little Hope is about the monstrousness of adolescence. Amongst other things, it's essentially a story about 3 teenage girls who are growing up in the middle of nowhere in the late 90s, and like teenagers in every small town in the middle of nowhere, everywhere, have to kind of make their own fun. And how these girls make their own fun is they create zines, but they also solve mysteries. And one of the mysteries that they get involved in turns out to be a little bit bigger and scarier than they were prepared for. And all 3 of the girls go missing. And the book begins with kind of maybe where you'd expect the book to end, which is that, 2 of the girls return. But the 3rd girl is still missing. And the story is the question of what happened to the 3rd girl. And but it's also the story about their friendship, the 3 of them.
It's a lot of different genres mixing together. So I'd say overall psychological horror, because it deals with themes of identity. So all 3 of the characters go through a journey from the beginning to the end, which is unusual. Let's just put it that way.
I think, let's stick to unusual.
Point.
It's very hard to talk about this book without giving any spoilers. So let's stick to unusual. Thank you very much. Over to Qarnita and Gail.
Gail, you go. I've only just remembered the name of my character.
So our book is about 4 characters, because there were 4 writers.
Queenie. My character is Queenie.
Well done. Mine's Ginger. So it's about 4 strangers who meet in an online fan group for Marion Keyes. And they decide that they all, for different reasons, have to meet Marion Keyes. So it's called Chasing Marion because they are chasing Marion Keyes. Can I talk now a little bit about where that idea came from?
Absolutely. Please tell us your inspiration.
What had happened is it was the beginning of 2020. Qarnita and I and a lot of our friends were going to... Marion Keyes was coming to all the book festivals in South Africa, which if you are a reader of that type of book is the biggest thing that can happen. And we were going to be on panels with her and we were so excited and we couldn't believe that our lives were so great.
And then we got depressed.
COVID came along. And so to comfort ourselves, we wrote about these 4 strangers coming together and trying to meet Marion Keyes like we had not been able to do. And it's a gentle plot, but you follow each character.
Gentle plot, like we made it up in 30 seconds. No fucking plot.
But you follow each character's personal journey and why they want to meet her.
Thank you. And I heard a rumor that Marion Keyes herself read it overnight.
Yeah. It was extraordinary. Our publisher sent, we'd been in touch with Marion on Twitter, and we said to her, we've kind of written a book where you are the centre of it.
Please don't sue us.
Yeah, please don't sue us. We did have a backup. It was maybe going to be chasing somebody else if she didn't agree. So our publisher sent it to her, and we had a conversation amongst ourselves, like, we mustn't expect too much. She might not read it at all. She might not like it, but whatever happens, she's not going to read it quickly. We must be patient. And the publisher had said, I'll never forget, she sent it at the beginning of December. And the publisher had said, please, can you get back to me by the 9th of January, which I remember because it's my birthday. And we were like, we mustn't expect to hear from her any time before that, if we're lucky after that. And we all went to sleep. And the next morning I woke up and I had a direct message from Marion Keyes on my Twitter telling us how much she loved the book. Aww. And it was extraordinary.
Incredible. I'm sure you wanted to bottle that feeling. Yeah. You were going to say something, Qarnita?
Gail is so good at giving all the synopsis and stuff.
And out of interest, how long did it take you to write the book from beginning to end?
I think it took about 6 months.
Yeah.
Because what we did was each of us wrote a chapter in turn. So you'd get the previous chapter you'd get on a Sunday night, and then you had until the next Sunday to write. So however many chapters there are in the book,
Yes.
that's how long
Add
it took
up.
us to
And
write.
that's how many weeks it took.
Yeah.
I understand. And Sam and Dale, how long did your book take from beginning to end?
Years.
More than 4 years.
Wow,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a journey.
yeah.
But we had a lot of fun with POV. Because you think you know someone, and we wanted the reader's experience to be them learning about these characters, and they have their own secrets. It's a little bit picnic at Hanging Rock there. But then you also get to see how other people see them, and how the town sees them. And then there are twists, there are twists there as well, because no one is who you think they really are. And it's right up until the end. So
Those things take
that was
time.
fun to do.
And how did you decide to collaborate together 4 years ago?
So the original idea was Dale's, right? So it was something that he'd been kind of thinking about for a while, I think. And then, but both Dale and I have kind of worked collaboratively in various projects before. Dale
I
obviously.
think we did Atlas Hours.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That's right up there.
Yeah. So we'd collaborated with each other before, but obviously Dale is an incredible comic book author and creator as well, and that's a very collaborative medium. We worked together on a short story together, and we both of us had been getting into writing for TV. And TV is obviously also an inherently collaborative medium, which is really fun. And, because the collaboration, I think you were talking about this earlier, it's play, right?
Yeah.
It's like sit around with your buddies and make up stories together.
Yeah.
It's playtime. Who wouldn't want to write like that, And we initially started talking about it as a comic book idea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we thought it was crazy that 2 people would write a book. You guys, 4.
It was crazy.
It was crazy.
The reflection of the personalities involved, I think.
I
But
can
we
imagine.
found that when we started, so we sort of started plotting was kind of our first approach, and we had this big kind of pinboard of chaos, and
structure.
Dale's really good at that kind of thing specifically. Like he's got a brilliant mind for really, because it's quite an intricate plot, and he's got
Yes.
a very kind of good brain for that kind of thing. So we sort of tried to, it looks a bit like a kind of, is conspiracy theory wall.
It's so funny, we started on an actual corkboard.
Yeah.
A little corkboard.
I was like, we need to get a corkboard.
Yeah.
We went out and bought one,
Yeah.
ran out of space,
Yeah.
and then it was only after COVID
Yeah.
that we found out, oh wait, there's these things, all these programs online.
Yeah.
So like
Which was helpful because.
Miro.
Oh, I'm going to ask you all about the tools that you used in a little bit.
But I think that kind of what happened was we started off, it was going to be a single comic book issue, or like one story amongst many stories in this comic book idea that Dale had been developing. But as we started talking about it, it kind of just kept spiraling and spiraling. And eventually we were like, we're actually so interested in these characters in this story. And we felt like actually maybe this is a novel. Like maybe we want the interiority of a novel and the space of a novel to kind of actually really see where all of these plot threads go. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I mean, even if it was a short story, it would take as much work as a novel.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it's Stephen King. I mean, when you make a fictional town,
There's a lot of detail to consider.
there are a lot.
There's a lot of detail to consider. Wow. Well done. Most impressive. My next question for Gail and for Qarnita, because there were so many of you, can you share your thoughts on the importance of chemistry between the person or the people that you're writing with?
Oh, I think that's probably a critical thing. We all find the same things funny, and the same things irritate us, and the same people annoy us. And so that's a great source of hilarity.
Common enemy.
Yeah, we've got a WhatsApp group that goes, and I swear that would make the funniest book ever if we dared to publish that. But I think it's critical. You have to have not the same outlook on life. I don't think that's exactly right. But for us, for the kind of book that we were writing, you had to find the same things funny, and that's really the core of it.
And I think also it goes, there's something very intimate about writing a book with people. Even though we were sitting in our own locked down homes, not working together, it's quite an intimate process, and I definitely think we went into it as friends, we came out as closer friends, the four of us. I mean, I think our WhatsApp group's active almost every day. You know, that chemistry grows if it is the right chemistry for writing together.
Understand. I think if my WhatsApp groups had to be published, I'd get arrested, but a story for another day. Thank you so much. Sam and Dale, I'd like to know, how did you navigate the meeting of, because for me, you know, when I started reading the book, I would say like the first half was like completely different to the second half. Forgive me if I'm dividing it not quite correctly, but it definitely feels like there are two themes that came together there, you know? So how did you navigate the meeting of what I'm describing as true crime meets horror?
That's a good one for you.
Yeah, that's me. Some of my favorite things are, one of the favorite things I like doing is genre bending. So I like, well, that's one of the great things about horror, is that you can start with something. This is psychological horror, there's different kinds of horror, and then you can Frankenstein monster your own little kind of creation, but it's a magic trick. If you've seen the film Prestige, it's very much that kind of process. So you kind of, audiences are very smart and very difficult to fool. So you have to have them thinking, oh, I know exactly what's going on.
I know where this is going, I'm certain, I see it coming.
And then you introduce something else. And so on and so on and so on and so on. Except we have a big rug pull, and then it becomes completely something else.
But Dale kept saying one of the mantras, like while we were writing, was we're not writing the Sixth Sense. The goal isn't one twist, and then once you know the twist, then you know that's like an unrereadable book. It was really important for both of us that we kept surprising the readers the whole way through.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
You did. I mean, the surprises keep like just whacking you over the head. Actually, you're like, what? Like that. Truly.
And it was important for us to not just it be plot, because all good books are character driven. So that's where your revelations should be. So that's kind of where we started. And think, wait, what are we going to do with the characters? And then that informed the plot.
I think this was one of the things that we got out of collaborating, which was great, was because we were working out the book through conversation, right? So we had opportunities to try to surprise each other. So, you know, you kind of like, I think when you're thinking about a plot.
Sounds the ultimate surprise.
I was like making plot holes, and Dale was coming out and fixing all my plot holes. You know, I think like your first idea is often the most obvious idea. And then what's fun about kind of bouncing back and forth is that you push each other past the first idea to idea 52, which is very weird, but okay, let's actually go see what happens if we go with idea 52. And that was kind of one of the things I think we got out of collaborating, which was it made the book more interesting and more surprising.
Yes.
And more interesting to work on, no doubt, when you follow that yellow brick road of idea number 52.
Yeah.
Just go in that direction and see where it takes you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Gail and Qarnita, you touched on this earlier where you mentioned that you had a Sunday deadline for writing. But I just want to know, like, when you started this collaboration between the four of you, did you assign each other roles and responsibilities, or were there guidelines and rules that you had in the beginning, or?
It started off quite loose. We had an idea for how long a chapter would be, and we sort of started alphabetical order. So it was Amy, Gail, Pam, and then me. And you had to write a chapter every week. And I guess the rule was that you couldn't change what the person in the chapter before had written.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you had to deal with whatever whatever
received.
came with it. I mean, the one notable thing is that who was before me? Pam. Pam tried
And you
to have
can't
me.
trust Pam with anything.
Pam tried to have my character sex trafficked, and I was not having that. So you go like, what the hell have you done to my character? Because Pam is a script writer, so everything's a cliffhanger, and I was not hanging off
That
that
explains a lot.
particular cliff. So I had to make things happen, and we ended up in a game farm. So, you know, those kind of things happen. What was the question? How did we go?
Were there like guidelines and rules?
Oh, the guidelines. No, the guidelines were your chapter was sort of 2,000 words-ish.
Yeah.
You couldn't change what happened before. You had a week to write, and that was it.
And also, you're leaving out the very important
Oh,
part,
okay.
that I had a whip and I would
Oh,
hit
Gail,
people if they
Gail.
didn't.
Oh,
Yes.
right. Is your
Yeah.
whip with you?
I didn't have a real whip, but I
Yeah, Gail was sort of the
head girl.
yes. That's the,
They're very frightened of me for some reason, and it's useful if you're writing with 4 people to have somebody that everybody's very frightened of.
Gail. Nobody is afraid of you.
You are petrified of me.
Nobody is afraid of you.
Pam is scared
But
of
Gail
me.
is very organized, and Gail is not afraid, and Gail is the one who tweets Marion Keys, where the rest of us are going, is she going to reply? Like, are we going to stalk her? Is she going to block us? And Gail's messaging, DMing, all of that kind of thing. So Gail is definitely the bravest head girl.
I see. Self-identified head girl.
Yeah.
So there's always got to be somebody steering those
Yeah.
deadlines, right? Okay.
I'm just curious about their process. It sounds like this is not an insult,
Children's
an
game.
exquisite corpse kind of approach to
It was like
collaboration.
playing a
But there
game.
must have been an outline that you agreed on, a very vague one.
We were going to meet
So
Marion Keys.
Yeah, they were going to try and meet Marion Keys. That was literally
Okay.
what we had agreed. We didn't even
Amazing.
discuss what our characters would be like. So when you got that first chapter from each
I'm
person,
just surprising
it's the
each other.
first
Yeah.
time. So it
Okay.
was like playing a game because we weren't, all of us write in our own capacities, but this was more of a lockdown passion project. Let's have some fun. And it was more about that, especially at the beginning,
Yeah.
than about writing a publishable book. And
That was not the goal.
and it really was. It was like playing a game, that
Yeah.
you got your chapter and now you had to carry on. I often thought of that children's game where you draw together, where you
Yeah,
fold the
yeah.
page and you
It's physical,
draw the
yeah.
next part. And I mean, it really was fun trying to, because you'd obviously have in your head what you thought was going to happen next, and then the next person would write something completely different, and now you'd try and get it back on your track. And it was just, it is certainly, and I write collaboratively with someone else, but this experience has been the most fun I've ever had writing.
That's great.
Amazing. And the back of your book says that, as you read the book, you should try and guess which author wrote which character. So is that still a secret? You don't want to tell?
No, we don't keep it a secret anymore. people have guessed, some quite closely, but mostly not.
Mostly not, and particularly, Qarnita's is a bit of a giveaway because
In
she's
Cape
the only
Town.
person who lives in Cape Town and the only character set in Cape Town. And then people really struggle between Amy and me, who wrote which character.
Which one were you?
I'm Ginger.
You're Ginger.
Yeah. I think it's perfectly obvious that I'm Ginger, but yeah, people get very confused between Amy and I. Pam, there are a lot, if you know Pam well, there are a lot of giveaways that that character is Pam. I mean, that also, Pam's character is a man. She took us all by complete surprise. None of us had seen that coming.
Yeah.
And suddenly we had that, Pam's going to be Matt. Okay.
I thought Pam was Jess. Okay, I got it wrong.
Yeah,
But now I know.
Now you've got it.
Now I've got it. Thank you. Next one's for Sam and Dale. So how did you manage the division of labor? Like things like, editing and researching. Like how did you divvy that up?
Well, I feel like Dale and I have very complementary skills, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we fill in each other's gaps, so it kind of works. Sam is better at prose than I am, and it's important that if you're collaborating, that your book has a consistent voice, because we all writing different chapters. You did it somehow.
Different characters. We had different characters,
Different
so the different
characters,
voices were useful.
But the voice needs to be the same. spreadsheets.
Who knew? You need so many
Note-taking.
spreadsheets to write a novel.
And all the 90s trivia. I loved all the 90s trivia in the book. It was really lovely.
It was
Yeah.
just a lot of research, and for me, the joy was kind of how it all fitted together, and to give that to Sam, that skeleton to Sam, and say, okay, run with it. Let's see where we end up, and then we'd have another Zoom meeting, and then Sam would say something stupid.
I'd be like, how can I take this perfect outline and blow it to smithereens?
Sam's like, well, what about this?
I know we carefully agreed that logically it has to be this, but instead.
Yeah.
So,
that was
well,
quite fun.
Well, on that note, this is a question for all of you. Like, how do you manage like creative differences of opinion?
You just don't get sex trafficked. You just don't.
That was our only creative difference. We wanted Qarnita to be sex trafficked. She didn't want to be. Yeah. Other than that, there were no.
It's agency. Agency is very important.
And differences in like style and tone.
No, I think also you talked about chemistry, but we all, I think, really enjoy what we write, what each other writes. So there was no real problem about that kind of thing. We enjoy each other's voices, we enjoy each other's books, we find the things funny. So, to get a new chapter every week was just fun.
Right.
But I think the very important difference between their process and our process is that our book is clearly from 4 different points of view.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
don't have
have
to be
to.
trying to get things the same. And in the other co-writing project I do, we have a main writer. Kate is the lead writer, and we plot together. It sounds more like your process. But with this, because of the 4 points of view, there was a freedom so we didn't come to blows about anything, because your voices could be completely different.
Right. You could actually get away with that.
Yeah,
You
and
could
your
you could
humour
add that
could be
freedom.
slightly different, and your how much swearing there is. One of the characters swears a lot more than the other characters, and it didn't matter because they are clearly 4 different voices.
Yeah, but the thing is that in each chapter, you didn't only write dialogue, for example, from your own character's
That's
voice. So you had to write dialogue from the other characters' voices. And so that was also tricky to get right, because you'd think, well, would my character say and speak like that? And somehow we got it mostly right. I think there was now and then that somebody would say, oh, but I wouldn't have said that. And that was adjusted. So I think you did have to have an understanding of the other writers' characters also. It wasn't
Of
just
course.
like, oh, no, I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah, you're not entirely siloed. You
because
do.
the story developed. You weren't only writing the interior world of your character.
Very interesting.
Can I ask, did you do an editorial process of each other's sections after you'd written the first draft?
After the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
draft, yeah. So when we did, not while we were writing, but after the first draft, when we were getting it ready, because we did the edits before we sent it to Marion, because if Marion Keys is going to read your book, you want it to be the best it can be. And then I think we went more into each other's territory.
Yeah.
And tweaked a little bit if we really, like if you're reading. I found with editing my own work or editing in a collaborative thing, if every time you read it, your ear is jerking on it, then that's something that really has to change. And I think we all did that a little bit with each other's, but quite respectfully.
Yeah, there was no editing in the process. It was just writing. And then in the end, we thought, are we going to get this book published? Maybe we should read it all together cohesively. And then it was when we sent it to Marion that we really got our act together and thought, now we've got to look at this properly. It's going out.
And Sam and Dale, how did you deal with consistency of tone? Because, like Gail said, it's what they were writing and how you two wrote were very different.
We were collaborating the whole time from beginning to end, I feel.
Yeah. And Sam, feel free to disagree. But I'm a little bit of a dialogue Nazi.
Okay.
So like that character would not say that kind of thing. If I could write a whole book that was just dialogue, I would do it.
You would.
But that was fun working with Sam on that, and kind of like like I said, we play with the point of view quite a lot, and that's kind of like where you have to be careful about what you say and how you say it, so you don't give things away.
Yes. But I absolutely love the dialogue in Girls of Little Hope. I mean, it was so witty and just really, really, really sharp. And
And that's, but yeah, that's.
it's apparent. It really, really comes across. It really, really does.
Thanks.
So this is a question for all of you. How did you navigate plot holes? Not to be confused with potholes. Plot holes.
I think we had some timing issues on ours. We lost a week and gained a week, and we only figured it out like 4 chapters later. So I think that was kind of the main thing.
The
Gail
nature of the
forgot
plot is it's
sometimes.
not like theirs. It's not
Yeah.
a carefully plotted book.
Yeah.
It doesn't result in a lot of plot holes. I mean, I've written carefully plotted books, and Chasing Marion is probably the least plotted book. But yeah,
The
timing
timing we
was
got,
really
because we
hard.
all just kind of, you write from your thing, and then you realize that Amy's still on Tuesday and you are next week Sunday, kind of thing. And like what happened in between? Nothing. They went for coffee, and that was all. So those kind of things, just on the timing and the, what's the proper word? The I don't know.
Structural edit.
Yeah, the timeline. The timeline got.
Continuity, says somebody in the audience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Continuity, in fact,
Yeah.
I'll challenge you, there still are 1 or 2 continuity errors in the book. See if you can find
I
them.
bet you're the only ones who have ever noticed.
I reread it after it was published, and I was like, oh my God. And it's a very small thing. It's a very small thing, but I don't know if I can ever read it again because of
Oh, Gail, don't say that.
It's not a timing thing. is it?
but no, yeah, there's a timing thing. But also the joy of being professionally edited is, on the whole, a professional editor helps you with plot
Yeah.
holes and goes, what happened over there?
Problems.
You sort that out.
That was so important for us too, because I think even though there's 2 of us, like you're so close to something for so long,
Yeah.
and you've written so many there's so many ghost drafts also haunting every line of prose, where you've changed things, but then there's still details from old drafts that no longer make sense, and you can't see them anymore. And the first time we had our editor kind of look properly, there were these moments of like, oh no, I can't believe we missed that incredibly obvious thing. But it's magical. It's magical to have a good editor.
And then there was me saying that it's impossible from. I drew a map of the town.
Yeah.
But just to give you an example, it's impossible from that character to get from that house to the police station in 8 minutes or whatever. That's the detail you have to.
This is one of Dale's superpowers. So in general, you have an incredibly detailed brain.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful because my brain isn't very detailed. It's very loosey-goosey. And so, absolutely, like Dale, there was the map of the town, but also there's a part of the book where characters start driving out of the city, and he'd figured out, like, oh, actually, by then they would have driven into the ocean, this doesn't work. Where's this character? This character was here, and then
Google
10 minutes
Maps.
later they're there. It was great, yeah. I would never have noticed those things. And it definitely enriched the book, yeah.
But actually, it made we said earlier, you would hand me a problem.
Yeah.
And say, well, here's a roadblock.
Yeah.
How are we going to get around it? And kind of like working together, you end up with something a little bit more interesting, a little bit more unexpected. Because that's what you want to do. You want to surprise people.
Yeah.
It's following that yellow brick road again. Yeah. So I'd like to share a quote by Virginia Woolf. You may know it, you may not. And it says that every secret of a writer's soul, every experience of his life, every quality of his mind is written large in his works. So the question is, how much of yourselves are in the characters you have written?
Oh, well, I just remembered her name at the beginning. Well, my character is Cape Town librarian, and the story goes that she's a secret writer, and she's not comfortable with having her work out there and calling herself a writer. And the other characters, kind of push her, and the way that they get to meet Marion is through a writers' competition that they kind of push Queenie into. And I don't know if it's too revelatory, but I think for me as a writer, that's kind of something that I struggle with, is putting myself out there and labeling myself as a writer and all the stuff that comes with it, the expectations, the insecurities, the self-revelations that you make knowingly and unknowingly. So I think that's, for me, something that's hidden in Queenie that would not be such a secret if you know me. And also, it was during COVID, you know, when your insecurities are magnified. And so I think that's something that I didn't intend to put into Queenie, but came, and I think also true to life, the other three characters and the other three writers constantly push me, not only in that book, in my character, but in our WhatsApp group as a writer. So it's kind of life imitating art, art imitating life, all of that. But Queenie is an incredibly special character to me. Even though
you can't remember
Even
her
though I
name.
can't remember. I did remember her name because Gail actually made a rule in the beginning that your character's name was supposed to start with the initial of your name. And Pam and Amy basically went.
I think they maybe didn't. So Qarnita and I are both lawyers. We used to following instructions.
And
when you
rules.
draft a contract, you do it carefully. You read every line. I think-
Queenie Ginger.
Exactly. I don't think they read the instructions properly. And we only revealed to them at a panel that they hadn't visited. Guys, did you actually know you were supposed to?
But we all held onto that little grudge right until the panel. So so that's my story with Queenie.
Thank you, Qarnita. And Gail, for you and Ginger?
So Ginger is an older woman, older than me, believe it or not.
1974,
I am 1974. Ginger was more like, I don't know, she was about 69.
We argued about that.
And so there was an element of exploring the type of older woman I'd like to be, because Ginger's quite feisty. She's been released. This is not at all autobiographical. She's been released from quite a difficult marriage to a difficult man by his death. And she really is having a bit of a second wind and enjoying herself. And I think that wanting to be a feisty, having fun older woman was something I wanted to explore. For me, Ginger was also just about having fun. And I think also possibly Ginger says some of the things that I might think. But I don't say. Ginger's quite outspoken, and she's got some clear views on some issues, and she just puts it out there. And I think possibly Ginger and I suppose is inevitable with any character you write, you only have your own sense of humour, so you share a sense of humour with your character.
Very important. Thank you.
So I think, Dale and I both grew up in really small towns. I mean, I grew up in Centurion, which isn't a small town, but also psychologically is very a small town, you know. And so much of kind of what found its way into the book was that experience of being a teenager who feels like such a weirdo and such an outsider, and then you meet your fellow weirdos who are the people who save your life, you know, and help you become the person that you are at that kind of crucial age, you know, like 15, the girls are 15. You know, I survived Centurion because I met my best friend who's sitting over there, who's still like one of the most important people in my life. And a lot of the book, it was actually one of the things that was most joyful for me in writing the book was kind of smuggling in these tiny little in-jokes and anecdotes that are actually, they're things that me and my friends did when we were mucking about as 15-year-olds, that are these tiny little things that they're the only ones we're going to recognize, those little nods to our shared history, you know. And I think, like, whenever I've written a project, I always think about it as making a gift for people that I care about, you know. You have your ideal reader. And yeah, I think like whatever you're working on, like parts of yourself find their way into the book. And I think like the parts of me that found their way the most into this book were, it was friendship and love, and the friendships and loves that I've been so blessed to have in my life. And kind of so much of the book feels like a celebration of friendship for that reason, I think. Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you.
Oh,
Gail,
my
you?
turn. How to not sound like a crazy person. Earlier you said probably autistic. That's proudly autistic.
I said proudly. Did I say probably?
You did say proud.
Anyway, that's what I
Say proudly.
because that figures into what I'm going to say
Okay.
now. So the books I enjoy, there's the text and the subtext, and the subtext is invisible, but it's someone processing something about themselves. So the picture of Dorian Gray, if you ask people, what is that about? Most people would say to you, oh, it's a man who lives a hedonistic lifestyle, and he's doing all this crazy shit, and the painting is showing the damage. His who he truly is. But that was him processing how society viewed him as a gay man. So I'm not getting into the nitty-gritty of this, but what's unusual about our collaboration is that it's between a neurotypical mind and an atypical one. And we do see things differently. What Sam says is true, but there was also something, believe it or not, with teenage girls that I was processing. That is a theme that runs through the entire book.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why, like I'll just end it with this. There's a reason why they're the baddies. They're the monsters. And that's how when I watch Frankenstein, I'm Frankenstein. Frankenstein's monster. I'm not Frankenstein. But to a lot of people who watch Frankenstein, he is the victim, not Frankenstein's monster. He's the monster to be feared. And when I watch Invasions of the Body Snatchers, it's the same thing for me.
Okay.
So it's almost the inverse.
It's flipped
So
on its head.
I wanted to write the part of the subtext is the people who essentially the baddies are the ones that in a weird way save the world. And for me, I'm a loner, but it's also wish fulfillment. So they stick together, and I don't want to spoil the ending. So
Yeah. It's hard to not do that, I understand.
I think I've said too much already. But sometimes you do things not for a pat on the back or a medal or a parade. You get up every day as a sacrifice, and you do it because it's the right thing to do. But the important thing is you're sticking together and you're doing this thing.
Yes.
So I'll leave it up to people to read the book and figure that part out. maybe it doesn't make sense, but
no,
yeah,
thank you for sharing
it was a
that.
personal journey for me.
Yes, and I like the way you explained that it's an inverse of the usual way that people look at things. So thank you very much. I'm just keeping an eye on the time, and I haven't asked you all the things that I want to ask you. So this one's for Qarnita and Gail. What did you say are the advantages and disadvantages between collaborative writing versus solo writing?
Well, I said earlier, I feel like a bit of a fraud because I've just done the one, Tracing Marion, as a collaborative book. And that was such a unique experience. It was a lockdown joy, I guess, for want of a better word. And what I got out of the collaborative writing is there was a freedom that came to it. You had your chapter and you had other people bouncing off you. It was less, in some ways, less anxiety fueled than writing on your own, because it was forced to move along. So, when I write on my own, I write a chapter and then I edit it to death before I can move on to the next one, because is it good enough? Is it saying what I want to say? So you get sort of stuck on that. But with the collaborative writing, there's this constant movement and energy that goes with it. And that for me was probably the biggest benefit and lesson that came from it, is that just keep going, feel the enjoyment of it, feel the happiness that comes with just moving on, instead of this constant criticism of what you're doing. Yeah. So that was for me definitely the collaborative win. And then also for probably the disadvantage for a control freak is that you've got no idea what's coming next. So when you're writing your own thing, you know what your character wants to say, you know where they want to go. So letting go of that control is difficult and freeing.
For me, it's been a very interesting journey, because the thing I love about writing it originally, I hate, in other areas of my life, I hate teamwork. I am a control freak.
Yes.
I like being in control. I like the work to be the way I want the work to be, and I love that about writing. You don't have to work with other people. It comes out of your brain. You sit alone and you do it, and that's lovely, working alone. And then I came to doing Chasing Marion and starting to write as Katie Gail with Kate at about the same time, and was suddenly doing this in my special alone space, was doing collaborative work. And it's amazing. It really is amazing. And with the Chasing Marion, it was the fun of it and just the sheer joy. With Katie Gail, where we have just started writing our 9th book together, where it's much more of a work, because we're writing a series and we're doing quite well with them, and we kind of feel like we're going to be doing this for the rest of our lives, and that's a bit frightening. But we're writing cozy murders, and to have someone to bounce off, to plot with, to pick up the plot holes. Kate and I, between us, barely have a working memory. So it really helps to have two people to remember who you've murdered, remember who was supposed to have murdered them, remember why the red herring is a red herring, remember why you put that particular thing in that scene. So that collaborative work of plotting is it's a little bit easier, but also, again, the control. So Kate's got a thing she does to me where she goes, "Nice idea, we'll come back to that." And I know, we are never coming back to that crap idea.
That's how you know somebody well.
So, and sometimes I really like my crap idea, and I would have liked to develop that. So it's that losing control, I suppose, is the downside for me. But if you do a bit of both, then life's an absolute joy.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. I mean, I think that you learn so much from both things. You learn so much from collaborating, and you learn so much from trying to write a solo project. Collaborating, I've definitely found it's more fun, it's more joyful. You get less in your head and less anxious and go into existential tailspins about what does any of it mean. But I think also writing solo, I have found for myself, you kind of have room to explore things inside you, and kind of it's a little bit more of like actual trauma processing. Absolutely, I think a joyful writing life is one that includes writing of a lot of different forms and a lot of different styles. But yeah, definitely, I've learned so much from collaborating. It's great. Yeah.
Dale, anything to add?
I'll echo what Sam said. I mean, Stephen King said, I can't remember what the quote was, but if it isn't a joy, it's not worth doing. So whether you're writing by yourself or you're writing with someone else, they're two very different experiences, but as long as it is a joyful one, I like collaboration. Terrible admission from me, but I like Elton John, and he never wrote any of his own songs. And all his songs, or most of his songs, were written by Bernie, who people have never heard of, but they know who Elton John is.
Yes.
And they worked through thick and thin together, right to the end. And that's one way to do it. It's nice to have someone there to be like, oh man, I've got this problem. I can't think my way out of it. I could just meet up with this person tomorrow and talk through it, and we'll end up with something. But collaboration and working solo, you end up with different results.
Of course, they're different
They're not
animals.
necessarily worse or better,
Yeah,
but it's a different experience.
100%. And it certainly sounds, what I'm hearing from all of you is that to collaborate with somebody is actually just, you've got so much more support in what it is that you're trying to do. And yeah, and more support, less criticism is what I'm hearing.
And lots of fun.
And
I
lots
think
of
that's
fun,
the big
of
difference.
course,
You don't really
of course.
have fun alone in a room writing
Yes.
a book, but you have a lot of fun when you collaborate.
Yes. So just being mindful of the time, I'm going to ask one more question before opening the floor to questions from the audience. So my question is, can you share any tips or strategies for effective communication and coordination for anybody out there who wants to try this collaborative writing thing?
Spreadsheets.
Spreadsheets.
And
Number one,
Miro.
spreadsheets.
But I think finding ways to document your conversations is very helpful because, I mean, with us, like, we would often have like 3-4 hour brainstorms over Zoom. And then at the end, there were once or twice, like, if we hadn't taken good notes, you know, and then later we'd be like, wait, what? Because you get so fired up, you know.
Or you've written a strange note that at the time you were sure you would understand, and it says like, the daisy will be the clue.
Yeah.
And you're like,
It's like those notes you
What?
write to yourself after you had a dream. You're like,
Yes.
that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
You write it down. I think there's a Seinfeld episode about this. And then you read it and you're like, this is absolute gibberish. There's a brilliant idea here. I can't see it.
What was that?
I mean, we definitely found tools like it was mirror board, right? Like, and we tried various things, like ways to also sort of visually share things we were working on. And this, I think, was particularly because we weren't in the same place. Finding these online tools was really helpful. Yeah.
I have not one tip.
Okay.
I don't know how this book happened. We went through it, we did it, we wrote it. It was amazing. I don't know how Gail does it all the time. I think maybe I have one tip. Pick people that you really, really like, and the rest of it will come.
I agree with that. It has to be, there's a certain relationship that has to exist if you're going to write with someone. You have to be able to be honest with that person. You have to be able to say, we'll come back to that idea.
I've heard it compared to a marriage of sorts.
It is.
Yeah.
Only easier than a marriage, actually. And also the practical things. I mean, one of the things Kate and I do is we have 2 WhatsApp things. We have the WhatsApp where we WhatsApp like normal friends and things, and then we have a group with the 2 of us called the Katie Gail Repository where we put our ideas so that you can come back and find them. So that idea of pooling that information. With Chasing Marion, that wasn't a big deal because the plot was so easy.
Yeah.
But I think honesty and friendship.
Are the secret ingredients. There's a lot of secret ingredients being shared today, so thank you so much. I think we've come to the time in the afternoon where we open the floor to questions. I'm not sure if there's somebody with a microphone who will be taking them. Yes, there is somebody with a microphone. Please just raise your hand, please. Please note we're looking for questions and not comments, and please keep your questions concise so that everybody can get a turn. Thank you.
My question is, if you could write with any famous author from anywhere in the world and any time in history, who would you write with? Qarnita.
That's a tough one.
I'd write with Qarnita.
Yes. And Pam and Amy. And Pam and Amy.
And Pam and Amy. And Kate.
And Kate.
I'm writing with enough
Actually,
people.
with
I'm trying to
she's
have
right
space
with
for anyone.
anyone, actually.
I don't know, I kind kind of want to say someone like Zelda Fitzgerald, because in the fantasy I'm also like being transported back and getting her to take me around her town and kind of show
You
sort of
want the
party with
holiday.
Zelda Fitzgerald, I think.
Oh man, it's difficult. This is like name your top 10 songs.
Yeah.
Impossible, Jen.
I'd have to say I'm going to aim high on this one, but I'm going to have to say someone like Carmen Maria Machado.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Nice.
I also think because as I'm fantasizing about it now,
Thanks, I'm still here.
that also the idea of writing with someone who's really big and really famous. Well, would you be writing as equals? And then I don't want to be writing with someone that I just go, yeah, okay, you're right. You are Stephen King. I'll just do what you say.
Understand. Cool. Do we have another question?
And I've been to like every talk so far, basically, because I'm for News 24, so I'm here. And this has been the most wholesome one so far. So well done, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
So this question is not quite about teamwork, but I was reading an article about like the IP problem in Hollywood. That the basic thing we have now, where instead of making new content on genres and genre bending and so forth, it's like it has to be a property that is kind of adapted. You know, I think all writers, all entertainment people kind of feel that now. And you guys seem like your collaborations come from a joint love of genre and playing with genre. So what do you guys feel needs to be done? Well, I don't know if you have any theories about it or that, but when you were making your work, did you feel like you were playing as close as you could to certain genre tropes, or were you, or did you, like the commercial aspect of the stories not come into it as much?
I mean, you actually might be a better place to answer this question. I mean, just from me, I would say, like, I think we made some very poor commercial choices because so we wrote kind of a cross-genre book, right? And it turns out that the industry generally doesn't love cross-genre books because they don't know where to shelf them.
It's the Sixth Sense problem.
It's the Sixth Sense problem. But, like, who cares? Because that's the book that we wanted to write and it was interesting to us. But yes, absolutely. Has that made it commercially? I don't know. Yeah.
When you go through the pitching process, they would have heard the whole story. So would know everything about it. And then they would choose to pick it up or not. Where it comes to copyright, if you've co-authored the book together, you're all equal owners of that property. And it can be optioned, and they can do with it what they want, or you could be involved. There's so many variations of it.
I just want to say on the genre bending thing, I think in South Africa, we get away with genre bending more than when you're writing internationally because it's a different publishing world here. And I think our publishers are less obsessed with going, oh, you horror, or you psychological thriller, or you da-da-da-da. Sorry?
There's no horror section.
Well, yeah, whereas if you're writing internationally and you want to be successful and you want to make money, choose a genre.
I remember there was a lot of talk about Chasing Marion being made into a movie and us buying yachts as a result of that. And that was the only consideration that we gave to any commercial aspect of Chasing Marion. So, yeah, we don't have the yachts yet. It's not a movie yet.
Yeah, we really don't have the yacht.
I think we're all working on the yacht plan. Somewhere, somehow, we're working on that yacht plan. Everybody, unfortunately, we have run out of time. Thank you so, so much to all the organizers of the Open Book Festival. Thank you so much to you, the audience. And thank you so much for your time to each and every one of you on the stage.
And thank you to you.
You're most welcome. Thank you.